Time flies when you're having fun. Welcome back into the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing. I am the editor-in-chief of Colorado Prep's Dan Mohrmann. Back with me after a week on assignment is the editor-in-chief of Mile High Sports Magazine, Doug Ottewill. Dougie, what'd you do with your time off, man? How'd you enjoy your non-Colorado Prep Show week?
Well, I wouldn't exactly say I was enjoying it because I was at a funeral, but but I tell you what, I enjoyed a lot of football this last weekend.
I mean, we were texting back and forth. I was in Lyman. You drove through Lyman. We thought we were going to connect. I bumped into Mike O'Dwyer today. He was severely disappointed you did not make an appearance. We'll get to that a little bit later.
I hope he's not mad. He's pretty scary.
Well, yeah, especially when he's on the verge of going for Title 23. That's what the Lyman Badgers have going for them. We're going to get in depth with all of that so much. I mean, we have so much football on the docket this week, Doug, that we can't contain it to one show. And that's because the road to state is almost complete, at least for the 6-man, 8-man, 1A and 2A squads. We have two more road to state shows live at Raising Cane's. Tomorrow we are at, I believe it's 3609 Wadsworth in Wheat Ridge. We have confirmed that the Ralston Valley Mustangs will be in attendance. We are efforting the Dakota Ridge Eagles. We may have an appearance from Valor Christian head coach Mike Sanford, who just hit me up randomly and said, "Where are you guys going to be tomorrow? I just want to come hang out with you."
Can't get enough. Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't have enough media exposure as it is. I think we gotta help him out when he needs it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that is excited to talk football. Mike might be the epitome of that. But
I would be excited after his game too.
Oh my God. It might be the game of the year. We're going to get to that here in just a second. But again, we'll be at 3609 Wadsworth. Anyone and everyone is welcome to join. Doesn't matter if your team's playing. If we've reached out to you, please come hang out with us at Raising Cane's. It's been a blast every single one of these shows. We're so excited to do it. Raising Cane's has been such a fantastic partner. Raising Cane's, one love. But as we start off every Colorado Prep Show, Dougie, we got to talk about what's on our upswing and what is on your upswing after a chaotic weekend of high school football.
So many options that, it was actually really hard to pick. But, I got to start with the game of the weekend, or at least what I consider the game of the weekend. And specifically on the upswing is the Valor Christian Eagles defense, who came up with the stop of the year. Legends going for 2, not just to tie the game, but to win the game with no time left on the clock. And the Eagles come up and make the stop. And, first of all, I give Jake Heaps a ton of credit just for having the stones to go for the win right there. I mean, the play that DJ Bordeaux made to get the game within 1 was incredible. And then I love the coach who just says, you know what, let's roll with this. Let's just go on and win this thing. And it didn't work out for him because the defense had a great call and they made a great stop. But all around, I mean, everybody involved in that game, kudos to everybody. But, hey, the Eagles are going on to the state semis because of that one defensive stop. And that's my upswing.
So many big plays, so many big swings in that game. We will definitely get into that more. For me, what's on the upswing, Dougie, I spent the weekend in Lyman, Colorado, and Titletown, Colorado is once again title game bound. About a year ago, I bumped into Mike O'Dwyer just across from where I am. I am in the press box at the CSU Pueblo Thunder Bowl, by the way, where the 6-man, 8-man, 1A and 2A state championship games will be contested this weekend. We just had press luncheon, walk through with all the teams and players. Great deal, great job by the CSU Pueblo Football Foundation, Rotary Club, everyone down here in Pueblo for putting this on. A year ago, when the game was over at Dutch Clark, I bumped into Mike O'Dwyer. He was the color commentator alongside our own Kevin Schaefer for the NFHS broadcast of the 1A championship game between Ray and Forge. And he said sitting in that booth was a refreshing reminder that he and his Badgers had to do things better. They had to get refocused and do things better. And he included himself in that. He had to do a better job coaching. He had a lot of new starters in that deal, but he took responsibility. And now, a year later, they are seeking their state best 23rd title. They beat Ray in a really, really fun football game to watch in Lyman in the state semis on Saturday. Now they get another shot at Buena Vista, the only team to hand them a loss, guys. It's number 1, number 2. That's the game we all wanted. We're going to get much more into that. We're going to talk about the 1A state championship game along with the rest of them here in just a minute. But, in championship weekend, you got to think that it takes a lot to train like a champion and building discipline. And that's what Upswing gives young athletes. They can get in there and get top-notch training at a very affordable level. Upswing invests in the drive of young talent and young athletes, creating opportunities for them to excel in and out of the gym. Once you get in and get your championship level training, once those financial barriers have been broken for you, it's time to recover before you get out the door. At Upswing, recovery is where young athletes can learn to listen to their bodies and prepare for the next challenge. And what's next on the challenge for a lot of these kids is a state championship game. And with that, I bring in our friend, the guy at Upswing, Jermiane Stafford. Jermiane, we were texting all weekend. You hit me up with a couple of phone calls throughout all the craziness of high school football. How are things on your end with what we saw over the weekend?
Well, hey, Dan and Doug, I am sitting on my hands. You can't see, but I'm sitting on my hands because first of all, I'm still cold from this weekend. But second of all, I am ready to applaud the young men that I witnessed play some amazing football games this weekend. The game of the year, I would say, over there at Echo Park between Valor and Legend. That was a battle. Dan, it was one that I had to keep calling you, even though you were annoyed by me calling you and giving you updates.
Never.
Score. I could tell. It's okay. It's okay. And Doug, you know what, Doug? I would have to disagree with you on one thing, Doug. So the crowd wanted them to kick that 1 point and take that thing into overtime.
Really?
No one wanted that to end, right? And I was one of those guys. I understand his decision to win it, but his defense was playing great. His defense was putting up stops and stops.
Very true.
And once again, I'm not questioning coach's call. I'm not doing that today. All right. What I'm talking about is, like, as a fan, no one wanted to see that end. So even if they would have scored that 2, no one wanted to see that end like that. And I could tell you that was a tough throw. As you watch now, the DJ was trying to put that around 3 guys. And as you heard Coach talk about it, Speedy is what they call the guy who broke that up. Speedy came and he made what I like to call the Brian Dawkins type of play, and that Champ Bailey type of break off, make it look like you're not interested and go make the play. Just a wonderful, wonderful game. I'm really excited for all the teams that participated this past weekend. I'm more excited about hitting over there to Green Valley over there to watch those guys play next week. That's going to be a tough game for Creek and for Valor.
You know, and we talked about that a lot. Jermaine, you called me after just an excellent play from Valor. I mean, DJ Bordeaux was in the open field and he had nothing but green grass in front of him. A fantastic play by the Valor defense to come up with. They knocked that ball free. They get it back. And at that point, when you called me, Jermaine, I mean, there was this overwhelming sense on your end that game was over. And then lo and behold, a couple minutes later, I get a text message from Doug. I was in Lyman. I had gotten my post-game interviews. I'm looking to go to a small town place, right? You got to write your story and get everything posted. And I get a random text from Doug saying, "Did you see that 2-point conversion?" And my only thought is, what happened now? Because when I talked to you, it seemed like it was a foregone conclusion that thing was done. But, you know, Legend gets the ball back. You want to talk about probably the 2 gutsiest plays you will see in the high school football season this year. It was DJ Bordeaux on 2 long runs. Legend has no timeouts. And that play where he scored the touchdown to get it to that 2-point conversion, I mean, he gets tackled in the open field, guys. That's a wrap. And so for that kid, not just to make that decision, but to execute that play is maybe one of the best football moments that, you know, having seen it after the fact, I can say that I've seen. What a gutsy move by that kid. I mean, it's a testament as to why he is one of the top players in the state. And yeah, Jermaine, I can definitely agree with you in that if I'm at that game, that's probably one you don't ever want to see end.
Yeah, you definitely give it up to DJ as well as the linemen on that team. But I am a true believer in DJ after watching play for play, because if you watch that game, he didn't have a great, first couple quarters in that game. It was some decisions made with some interceptions given away. There was a couple fumbles there, a couple snaps on the goal line when it was very close. It was 4th and I think, 3rd and 2, and it was a snap that they had to take a knee on. So, but the perseverance to continue to go. And yeah, I spoke with you, and that game looked over, right? I mean, they were moving the ball down. They had a couple first downs to get, and when they got that ball back, you could see, that kind of that Tom Brady-ish, Patrick Mahomes type of jog onto the field from DJ. Like, okay, I put us here. I'm going to help us get out of this, right? And those 2 runs were just, magnificent. I couldn't even call you and speak about it, right? Because I felt like you didn't want to listen to me anyway, because I just told you the game was over. So I sit there and just enjoyed the moment in which it was a tough call, tough game. Give it up to Valor as well. I mean, up 14-0 in the first quarter. It was looking great. There wasn't much going on with the defense for Legend. You could hear the crowd kind of, rumbles and mumbling about, we don't have it today. We don't have the offense going. And I'll tell you, every play that was either a tackle for a loss or very close to it, you can hear that roar from the Valor side. It wasn't the normal roar that you would just hear for a quarterfinal football game. It was a state championship roar that they were excited their team was playing up to that standard what Valor typically puts up. But give it back up to Legend side. Those young men stood up. And, one of our 18 on the upswing in our edition, our prep edition, Kellen Marchand, you have to give it up for that young man. The game that he put on at his size to be able to run away from young men the way he did in a couple of those routes and catches, the yards after catch was just phenomenal. He made a couple of catches. I was looking up at the screen myself to see instant replay to even see if it was actually a catch, and they were. So, yeah, overall, great game, great atmosphere. Great weather, still a little cold, but great weather.
I'm with you, Dre. It's hard to argue the concept of I don't want the game to end, because I was watching, I was watching on the NFHS network, and I was thinking the same thing. I think I might have texted Dan too and said, well, the game over, and then lo and behold, it's not over. From being there, Jermaine, I'm curious what you thought of the last play. As hot as DJ Bordeaux's hand was, I kind of wanted to see something in the middle of the field that gave him, multiple passing lanes on either side of the field, but also the ability to have a draw play like he had done the play before. I'm just curious if that was the play that went in. It looked like it was either kind of a play action or run pass option, whatever you want to call it. But it seemed to me that it limited the side of the field, and Valor adjusted accordingly. When you watched, or if you had a chance to talk to anybody after the game, what was kind of your take on the last play?
As I watch it, if our great producer Danny Bailey, if he can roll that back, I can show you where I thought they were actually going to use it, because the entire time they rode DJ out, right? And if you watch right down the center, over the center, watch that hole. That gap just opened wide open, right? I thought it was going to be a drop back, same concept. Maybe push Rankin on a slide to the left and Kellen on a slant for that option, for him to see both sides of the field and take 2 steps to that right and go right down the 0 gap. That's what I anticipated. It would still gave the run pass option, but what you would have there is 1-on-2, 2-on-1 in the middle of the field, because as soon as you seen the tight end roll to the right, if we played it back one more time, you see that tight end roll to the right, you'll see the entire defense shift, right? Watch the entire defense shift. They did a motion that pulled, and you see the entire defense roll as he took 1 step, they ran. And I thought it would go down the middle a little bit, but once again, it's Monday. We're not the coaches. It's easy to be the quarterback today. That was a great call, great gutsy play of those young men and the way to fight back. I had the honor to talk to Kellen after the game, and he said, hey, it's not the way we wanted to end up, but it's the way it ended up, and we'll regroup, and we'll be back next year.
Well, I saw the play from a different angle. I can't remember which social media outlet. I would give them credit if I could remember, but there was an angle of that play that somebody had filmed from the end zone. And to be fair, the receiver was open, up until the very split second that he wasn't, because like you said, Speedy made a great play, made a great read on the ball and broke it up at the last minute. But, the read was there. The receiver was open. It wasn't a bad throw by any means. I think it was just a great play all around by the defense.
Yeah, and that's what you get, right? I mean, it's football coaches always say games come down to what, 4 or 5 plays, right? And really 3 of them happened in the last couple minutes. There was the fumble that Valor forced. The fact that Legend got the ball back was great. There was DJ making 2 great plays to get in the end zone, and then of course that 2-point conversion is really what did it. We're going to get much more into Valor here in a minute. I do want to touch on a little bit of the rest of 5A real fast, guys. I mean, Fairview, Dougie, I texted you when I saw this because on the scoreboard, I saw that Fairview took a quick 7-0 lead over Cherry Creek. And, through the course of that game, that score was a little bit closer than what I thought it would be, especially for a 1 versus an 8. And we've always kind of said there are 4 or 5 teams that were truly in the top of that 5A mix. But for the first time all year, did it seem like Cherry Creek, not that they were going to lose, but did they feel like they were maybe beatable?
Well, sure. And I think, part of the problem is that we didn't know as much about Fairview. I mean, they just, they kind of got that early loss and people, I don't want to say slept on them, but they didn't play maybe the same type of schedule as some of these other schools, but they kept putting up big numbers. So, we talked about it on this show that, hey, let's wait and see what we have in Fairview. And I think Creek got to see that. I think the other part of it was that Jackson Roper went down early in that game with a significant injury. And, we wish him well, but I got to think if you're Cherry Creek, basically the top recruit in the state, left tackle, goes down, you got to be a little shell shocked. So I'm not trying to make an excuse or take anything away from Fairview, but I think that did play into it. Maybe Cherry Creek had to adjust a little bit based on that injury. So the game was a little bit closer than what most people thought.
Yeah, and I'm not one to always say I told you so, but I'm going to say it here. I told you so, right? My take was
we've got more of I told you so coming up from you later. You need to save it. You need to ration out your I told you so.
Well, I can only speak what is present, right? I'm only speaking the fact. If it's present, I'll have to say it when the topic comes up. But this is one of the topics. In all seriousness, I did pick that they would score 21 plus points. And I remember the faces around the screen that day were kind of like, wow, really, 21. I just felt like they were a type of team that could stand tall skill-wise. And also, regardless of, what possibly could, happen to Jackson Roper and the rest of the team, what I knew, the data that I had was very simple. They score and they don't stop trying to score. Right. And I think that's the difference with a lot of teams that play Creek. When they don't score, then they're content with not really scoring. They lay down and then Creek takes off in the game. Them getting out early and getting that 7-0 lead with any team will give you kind of that moxie that we can play with them. Now, when they went down, they relied back on the narrative that they've always had this year is continue to score. Coach Mack has always done a great job with that up in Boulder with his Fairview teams. They're able to score with teams. So, yeah, they were beatable within that game, speaking to Creek. But let's be realistic. Everyone's beatable. And this is what champions do. You have to stand up and you have to win the game, whether by 1 or 21. You win the game, and that's what matters in November, so you can make sure you take care of business in December.
All right. Mountain Vista advances to the state semifinals. I believe it's for the first time in program history. They trailed at one point, battled back to beat Arvada West. It wasn't Brooklyn Bailey, guys. It was Hudson Majeski, the younger brother of Austin Majeski, the Valor or the Mountain Vista quarterback that had such a phenomenal career there and graduated last year. So Mountain Vista rolls on to face Ralston Valley. The Mustangs handled their business against Mullen. I think that was one we pretty much expected a decent result out of that. The funny thing is that game came so late in the day, and we had so much had happened at the beginning that I remember, kind of scrolling up social media and looking when I got home, and I was like, oh yeah, that game's still going on. It was just, not to take anything away from Ralston Valley. I'm so excited to talk to them and Coach Yanacito tomorrow, but just with the thrilling day that we had in high school football, it just became so funny that the 3:00 start on quarterfinal, semifinal Saturday was a little bit of an afterthought. So let's dive into it, guys. We've got two big semifinal games on Saturday in the 5A realm. Up first, we've got Cherry Creek against Valor Christian. They met in the semifinals a year ago. Cherry Creek won that game 42-17. That turned out to be the last game for then Valor Christian coach Brett McGatlin, who of course is now at Denver Christian now. And then in came Mike Sanford, and maybe this surge of energy and a feeling like they're trying to get back to where that program was, about a decade ago. This is the 9th meeting between these programs in the playoffs and the 4th time they've met in the semifinals. Valor is 2-1 against Creek in the semis. Creek's lone semifinal win against the Eagles came last year. Guys, how does Valor pull this off?
Doug, your silence is like you want me to go first, so you can't steal my answer. So I'm going to speak here.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I don't want to be accused of stealing anything this early in the show.
Valid. That's very valid. Well, honestly, I truly believe Valor pulls this off if they can control the skill guys for Cherry Creek. And they did a somewhat great job against Legend last week, other than Kellen Marchand getting loose. If they have the same type of defense for the wide receivers at Creek, it may be a longer day because Creek has a couple of those running around. Creek has a couple of those running around. I think they really have a shot when if they come out and they stand tall. And I think some players are going to have to play both ways. What I witnessed with Valor was very unique with the way they ran the ball. They have a couple backs there that run the ball hard and strong, and their edges were just on fire. And what I mean by that, they were able to reach the edges, and the O-line was playing very, very aggressive. So I could see them putting one or two on the opposite side to stay with the depth of Cherry Creek, because obviously we witnessed that with Fairview this weekend, right? It was the depth that allowed them to interchange the type of offenses they were running. Defense-wise, they stay the same. They are very beat up on the defensive side. I could tell you that. You can go look at the depth chart. That Creek is very, beat up. But beat up at Creek, it means some kids that could possibly start it there from somewhere else. So I think they pull it off if they can come out and just withstand the first and second quarter push. With Fox getting out of there very early. I mean, Cromwell had a great game. Those guys are running well in that backfield. So just withstand that first half. Hey, this week, we've seen them jump out. This past weekend, we've seen them jump out 14-0 against Legend. And then the gas pedal it didn't slow, but you could see a little bit of celebration. They were elated to the point where the focus stayed off on pushing that gas pedal. So them withstanding Creek's first two punches could be a way they can come to a victory.
Yeah, I mean, the storyline in this game is outstanding. I mean, obviously you've got two phenomenal coaches. I mean, Dave Logan's resume speaks for itself, but I think, Mike comes in and is really a guy that's wanting to put his name alongside some of the best in Colorado, and he's coached at some very high levels, but not in this game. So I think the chess match that goes into this is going to be phenomenal to watch. But, I think at high levels of football, one thing that's consistent across all coaches is that they'll attack a weakness. They all have a take no mercy mentality. And if Jackson Roper was one of the best players in the state, you attack the guy that's filling in for him, because obviously that guy doesn't get a lot of reps, or at the very least, there's going to be some shifting and some, chemistry that has to take place really quickly for Cherry Creek. Not to say they can't. I mean, Dave Logan's such a great coach. I'm sure that he's had a plan all season long for, worst case scenarios. So, but I do think that you'll see, whether that's blitz packages, whether you'll see, playing off, making Cherry Creek beat you with the pass and blitzing off the edges, those kind of things, as opposed to playing them straight up. Given the fact that Jackson Roper's not there, I think represents a potential opportunity for Valor Christian. So, as I said, you get to the highest levels of football, anytime that there's a change or an area of concern or whatever, the opposing coach is going to attack it. And I fully expect to see that from the Valor Christian defense.
And really, when you're facing a team like Creek, it's pick your poison. Who do you want to beat you? Do you want to give it to that vaunted ground game and Jaden Fox and Elijah Cromwell? Or do you want to try and make Brady Vodica beat you through the air? If I'm, not that I've ever been a football coach at that level, but if it were me, I take the ball if I'm Valor Christian, I win that coin flip. And I think Creek tends to defer anyway. So if Valor gets the ball first, try and get down there and score. And if I'm them, I'm going to do whatever I can to make Brady Vodica beat you, because the other options just don't sound as appealing. And that's not even a knock on Brady in any way. He's a fantastic quarterback. When I saw him at Pine Creek earlier this year, he genuinely looked bored. So he just wanted to throw a couple of long touchdown passes because he hadn't done it in a while. Like, that was kind of the way he carried himself. But I think and that might be the best shot that they have is, take away the best players, the best weapons that Cherry Creek has at their disposal, and just see what Brady can do. If you can force him to try and keep pace with Titus Eward. Mike loves what Titus Eward can do. Yeah, and he will probably not hesitate to let that kid throw the ball all over the yard if he can. So if you want to turn this into a track meet, that might be the way that Valor Christian wins this game.
I could say this, poking that bear. I agree with you, Dan. That is a strategic, well, it's 50-50, right? When you're a coach in those type of games. This is a semifinal game. But poking a bear of someone who is it's almost like he's a fifth-year senior, right? He's been on that field. He's been in state championship games year in and year out. Who hasn't would be the young backs, right? So the young backs have not. And I would look to go that route, but I don't think that's going to be the route that actually beats you with the playmakers they have on the outside with those wideouts. Because multiple wideouts can beat you. Only one running back can beat you. So I stand steady with it. I love the blitzing, Doug, off the edge. I think that's going to be key to coming off that edge. What I did witness was Valor had a lot of time in that pocket last week, right? To the point where those QBs were sitting there and they could pick off. It won't be the same, I don't believe, this week with that D-line and some of the guys that they have committed, on that D-line for Creek. It won't have as much time for him to play back there a little bit. I don't believe defense wins the games for Valor. For Creek. What I believe is you truly have to offensively run with them. I believe that. You're right. It's going to have to be a track meet. So however you get to that, run or pass, be prepared for a shootout and be ready to run. You're not going to beat them just standing there, stalemate, and try to get your 21-20 game. It's just not going to be that type of game. They're going to come out there fast and ready to go and try. If you know old Logan's ways, Coach Logan's ways, try to end it early so they can rest longer. If it's to be one, it's going to happen, come out very fast. Unfortunately, I've been on those sidelines against Logan a couple of times, and it happened fast, right? And you look up, it's 21-0, and that was not good for the opposing team, which happened to be Valor at the time. Just going back, I get reflexes about those days when they're, but that they came out really fast, and I could see them doing the same now.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Jermaine. I've seen so many of those title games that I think it was a 3-year stretch where it was Creek versus Valor in the state championship game. Creek gets an early lead and then kind of just went into cruise control mode, right? Controlled the game, didn't have to do anything flashy or spectacular from that point on. I think you mentioned 21-0 on the turf right behind me at the Thunder Bowl. And then I think it was 21-0, the exact same score a year later when it was back at Mile High. What I will caution you against is the lesson that everyone learned last year. Legend was up 13-0 at halftime over Cherry Creek, and Jaden Fox got hurt. Well, what happened? Elijah Cromwell came in and ran for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Creek ends up winning, or it was 10-0 Legend at halftime, and then Creek ends up winning the game 13-10. So I think that's how Cherry Creek kind of maintains its dominance is with those running backs. So if you're Valor and you can get up early and you can force the game into the hands of a quarterback, and you want to make it a shootout between Heward and Vodica, if you're Mike Sanford, that might be your best bet if you think your quarterback is the best skill player you have on the field.
Yeah, so I'd like to see them get Cass Spence more involved this week. I didn't see as much last week. I was quite surprised with that. And I watched the defense for Legend. They weren't running anything to exactly double him or, put him into one side of the field. So I look for Valor to look to him, to look to your seniors, right? This is a game that could be their last game, right? You want to make sure. I mean, DJ showed that last week with Legend. I mean, do you make those type of runs in the 5th week, of the season, right? That's type versus, it's consequences to not having successful plays. And I looked at Valor, hopefully, and they would truly need to, get Cash Spence involved.
Yeah. On the other side of the bracket, we've got Ralston Valley versus Mountain Vista. We mentioned both those teams took care of their business. This is the first semifinal appearance for Mountain Vista. Ralston Valley made the semis back in 2023, losing to Cherry Creek 21-14. Ralston Valley has never made the state championship game. So the winner of this game goes to their very first state championship game, which is always a cool deal when you get to see that in a playoff bracket. Last meeting between these two teams was in August of 2023. That was a 13-7 win for Ralston Valley. Ralston Valley is actually 5-0 all time against Mountain Vista. Is Zeke Andrews and Marquise Reese, the two quarterbacks for this team, is this actually the better of the two quarterback duels that we're going to see in the 5A semis?
I don't know if it's the better of the two quarterback duels, but I do think that both, whichever guy has the best game might be the one that comes out with the win. I mean, the one thing about what I noticed about Mountain Vista, they had the scare a week ago where they just didn't put up any offense. I want to say it was 14-0 in their first playoff game. And then this week they came out and showed, hey, we're still Mountain Vista, put up some points. But I also like
they ran the ball. That's the key this week.
Yeah,
is they ran the ball.
The 200 yards from Majeski, that's not typical of them. It gave me an indication that they have a different dimension, and maybe that's something that Garrett Looney went back to the drawing board after that first playoff game and said, hey, we can't do the same thing we always do. We got to do it different ways, show people different looks. So you have one kid go for 200 yards on the ground. That makes the defense play you pretty darn even. They're not going to favor one thing or the other because Mountain Vista, as we know, can put up a lot of points and can beat you now in a lot of different ways. That's not to say that they haven't run the ball well all year. They have. But I think when you have a star performance like that, it really puts the defense, back to the drawing board, rethinking what they may or may not have to take away from a team. So, and in the first game between these two, 13-7, it wasn't so dominant that there was a statement made, or I would think either team goes into this game thinking, hey, we can beat that team. So I think this is a great matchup, and maybe it is a matchup between Andrews and Reese, and whoever comes out on top is the winner of that game.
Well, I can tell you I'm very excited about the skill play here. I know the question was about the quarterbacks, but it comes down to it being the best, QB duel is who do they have on the other side. I mean, we have, two of our upswing young men on both sides of that ball, right? Mm-hmm. And to see both of them to battle it out. And I know how these guys go. I mean, they look at stats, right? Guys watch the stat board and want to show the other and show everyone else I'm just as good as him for recruiting reasons and definitely for W reasons. But what I look at the biggest side of that QB duel is who has the experience to try not to do too much at the wrong time. You alluded to it. Brady knows he doesn't have to do a lot, right? He doesn't have to. Peyton Manning didn't have to do a lot when they won the Super Bowl last time here, right? Let's get back to that. I mean, that's just control the line of scrimmage, third downs. If it's a 6-yard pass here and there, which quarterback of the two will control their temperament to understand that big plays don't win semifinal games, consistent plays do. And getting the guys lined up and keeping emotions low and not worried about the flag that shouldn't have been thrown or was thrown. I mean, that's what a quarterback on the field during the playoffs is all about. It's both sides of the ball. And this is one part that I was very elated to see on both ends of Legend and Valor was the sidelines, right? These captains of the sidelines. Typically, you see captains walk out. When they all walk out, no one looks like that's the offensive captain, defense. It's not the pros, right? It's young men or captains, right? Somebody can wear a number 11 and be a defensive player. You're not calling defensive captains. It's captain of that team. And I think that's important of the game. Are those quarterbacks going to be the captains of their team during that time? Because it's going to be needed, right? In this type of game, that's going to be needed to keep yourself very low and never too high. So that's where I think the QB play is going to come the best in, because they are a voice. They get to speak freely in every huddle. And if it comes down to it's like 60 plays on offense, same thing on D, the offense, when you get to the sideline, there's 4 quarters of conversation that happens on the sideline to keep guys, temperament together, and a narrative is about winning. So it will be great quarterback play and great skill play all around in that semifinal. I could tell you that.
Yeah, the 2 guys you mentioned, that's part of what I'm excited about for this game, Jermaine, is, when the ball gets into Brooklyn Bailey's hands, what's going to happen for Mountain Vista? And Nico Bolano from Ralston Valley, same thing. You have 2 quarterbacks who can get their skill guys the ball, and let's see what kind of plays they can make. And that might be the difference. Whoever makes one more play could power their team into the state championship game. So before we take our first break, the guys, we're going to force everything onto the record today, because we've got it. We've been right, we've been wrong over the last few weeks. Jermaine, you've been more right than wrong, and you're going to remind us again of that a little later. I had Mike O'Dwyer even mention that to me. I just can't get enough of it. But give me your semifinal picks for the 5A games this weekend.
Well, I think the worst thing that could have happened to Valor Christian is that Cherry Creek had to play in a close game, because I think they hadn't played in one all season long. And I think, if anything, that might have served as a wake-up call to the Bruins, which is the last thing their next opponent wants to see. So in that game, I'm going to go with Cherry Creek. I think it's going to be a great game, but I am going to go with Cherry Creek there. And then I'm going to take Garrett Looney and his Mountain Vista Golden Eagles to see them in the finals on the other side.
Not so fast, Doug. Not so fast. I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Creek. I'm going to go Creek. Valor. I wish Valor well. My heart's with Valor. Obviously, my days, strolling that campus. I just see a little different, point of perspective being live to that last week's game. And, Creek just has that firepower. And Doug, you are totally right. That's the last thing you want to do, is see them go in a game where it was pretty tough and get them fired up and know that they have business to do. On the other side, I'm going to go with Ralston. I think this is an opportunity that they've never had, obviously, in general, but to get there versus Creek, I think that's something for those kids up north. And I say up north compared to where the other teams are located. To get up north, I truly can see that team, biting at the bit to get in a state championship game to show their worth. If you think about what type of program that Ralston Valley is, and it's that gritty, that's that blue collar, that tough, there's nothing more for them to know they play one game and they get to be in that stadium up in Fort Collins and playing against, someone on the other side, which we do believe will be Valor. Be Creek. But if it was Valor, I know Ralston. I played against Ralston a couple of times, and they love to play Valor. So whoever it may be, they know their opponent is someone they want to square up with. And once again, 4 great teams. I love Vista, Coach Looney, and Brooklyn. That team over there. It's just hard to pick, but I would say Cherry Creek versus Ralston Valley.
Yeah, as much as I would love to go against the grain in that Creek Valor game, I think the tough part is I think Mike Sanford coming in and doing what he has the potential to do with Valor Christian, he's still at least a year away. And I think he's starting to understand, that part of it and the high school culture. But ultimately, you have so many Division I dudes on that Cherry Creek roster. I hope Mike comes and hangs out with us tomorrow and will give me grief for picking against it, but you got to go with Cherry Creek. They've been the best team in the state all year, and you don't pick against them at this point of the year just for fun. So the other one's a little bit of a tougher way to go, because I can make an argument for each team for a lot of the reasons that we've all said, but I think at the end of the day, I think this is Ralston Valley's year. I think Zeke is a phenomenal quarterback. He has the skill guys that he needs. They've been such a good team all season long. I think they've been the second best team in 5A all year. So I'll go with my 1 and 2, and we're going to go with Cherry Creek, Ralston Valley. I'm right there with you, Jermaine. I'm going to ride some coattails just so I can up my winning percentage a little bit. But we're going to get into the rest of the action. We're going to go through the rest of the semifinals, the championship games, and the whole slot of it. We'll pick our winners We'll break everything down. 4A and 3A semifinals coming up next. This is the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing.
The Benefits Broker team of agents has over 100 years in employee benefits and individual health care needs and is your 24/7 resource for a variety of essential benefits-related information. Clients have enjoyed the ability to connect in person or by phone, while others enjoy the convenience of their online service where they can review the status of their claims, obtain summaries, and download forms including claim forms. Dave and Steve do their homework so you don't have to. They know the market by distinguishing the best products from the merely adequate. Give them a call at 877-545-4840 or visit them online at benefitsbroker.com.
A little more slack. Come in.
Whoever said work smarter, not harder, didn't realize you could do both.
Raising Cane's invites you to grab life by the chicken fingers. So get out there. Be you. Do you. Embrace whatever makes you, you. All while enjoying Raising Cane's hand-battered cooked-to-order chicken fingers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, buttery Texas toast, and that secret recipe cane sauce that makes everything that much better. So go on. Savor the day.
Raising Cane's chicken fingers. One love.
Welcome back into the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing. I'm the editor-in-chief of Colorado Prep's Dan Mohrmann. The editor-in-chief of Mile High Sports Magazine, Doug Ottewill, is with me, as well as our buddy Jermiane Stafford from Upswing. Just got through running down the 5A state semifinals. 2 great games on tap for Saturday. We're going to go ahead and move into the 4A bracket, where, again, I think we have mostly chalk. We had a little bit of a seeded upset as Heritage went down to Durango and got a win over the Demons. But Dakota Ridge, they rolled through Pueblo West. That sets up a big semifinal matchup between those teams. This is the first semifinal appearance for Heritage since 2009 when they beat Monarch 36-35 and then went on a week later to beat Longmont for the only state championship in program history. Dakota Ridge was the #1 seed in last year's semifinal, guys. They got bounced by Broomfield 45-7. So it'll be interesting to see if that memory lingers for them. These two teams played earlier this year. Dakota Ridge won 49-21. Heritage hasn't beaten Dakota Ridge since that state championship season back in 2009. Kellen Berenson, I believe that's how you say it. That's also the coach's name. We're trying to reach out to him to get to Raising Cane's tomorrow. His son Kellen threw for 210 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mo Thanel rushed for 143 yards and a touchdown for Heritage. And if you guys haven't seen, Mo Thanel looks like any brick wall that's around the stadium here at CSU Pueblo. That guy is massive. But what do we like coming out of this game? Dakota Ridge has been that top team in 4A all season.
Yeah,
Take it, Jermaine.
Oh, hey, thank you. You're giving me you set me up. Is that what that is? Okay, I'll take it.
I like just tossing the question out there to see who's going to take it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be a gentleman. I'm a guest, remember? So I would say I would go with the big boys, Dakota. I think they would come in and run that ball and be consistent with what they do. And at this time of the year, you're not trying new things, right? You're obviously going to stick to what's happened and what's been successful for you. You look back at Valor and what they were doing, with the QBs, trying to figure that out. And once they figure that out, you see they just took off. Same thing here. I think you stay consistent with what has been winning the games for you and controlling your narrative from play to play, game to game, right? What kids are comfortable with doing. And I think you stay and you run the ball and they'll move on.
Well, I agree with Jermaine wholeheartedly. I mean, I think Dakota Ridge has kind of been the class of this class all season long. And the way that they're winning, I mean, they're winning convincingly every stop. And, the Heritage has been one of those teams, and obviously they've come a long way. They're a better team now than when the season started, but they haven't been a dominant team. And I think you look back to the first time that they met, and, earlier in the show, I said, when Ralston played Vista, it was a close game. And so I don't think either team came out of that or left that thinking, we don't play toe to toe with those guys. I think both teams felt they could win the next time. In this matchup, on the other hand, I don't know that Heritage, they're going to have to do a lot of soul searching and a lot of film to try to figure out how they're going to beat Dakota Ridge, because Dakota Ridge won so convincingly in their first matchup. Obviously, Heritage is a better team, as I said, but I think it's a tall task. I'm going to go with Dakota Ridge as well.
The game that really made my interest peak in Heritage was that 14-13 loss to Columbine, because they hung in and they battled that whole way. And we figured out that, especially early in the season, Columbine was not your typical Columbine team, but that's still the kind of game that can feed into what this team believes it can do. And I remember I can think back a couple weeks ago when Grand Junction was playing Heritage in what would have been Heritage's first playoff game of the year. Mile High Sports' Cody Rourke went to the game, Dougie, and he sent me a text, and all it was that Heritage running back is massive. And that's all I heard from him. And
this time of year.
Right, yeah. Never hurts this time of year. So if you can keep the ball out of Dakota Ridge's hands, right? What have we always said is the great equalizer? If you can run the football and keep it away from the offense, that's always going to give you a better shot of winning the game. So it's a tough proposition against a team like Dakota Ridge, who has been beating people up left and right. I mean, Pomona is probably a 3A team that would contend against a lot of the 4A teams. Dakota Ridge ran away from them. So they're, one of the two teams to beat in the bracket in my mind. But Heritage at least has the kind of weapon that can equalize that game. I think Dakota Ridge ultimately wins, but this may be a fight that might be a little bit tougher for them than everyone thinks, at least early.
Well, I think you make a great point with their big physical running game. But I would say this too. The one thing about Heritage's win to get here was it came over Durango. And as much as you want to be fair, and as much as you want to be fair about it, I think no one ever knows much about those Western Slope teams. So I think, was it an upset? Maybe, but it could be that Durango is maybe seated a little high too. So, I just think that we didn't learn as much. Obviously, you watch the game and you can see that they have a big running back and that they can do some things. But I don't know that there's a comparable, as you said, a Dakota Ridge versus Pomona. That tells you a lot when they beat a team like that. I'm not so sure that beating Durango tells you quite as much about Heritage.
That's a fair point. That's going to be a fun one. On the left side of the bracket, if you're looking at it on a computer screen. On the other side, big, tough, and physical meets big, tough, and physical. There's no other way to describe this game between Montrose and Palmer Ridge. Montrose, of course, is last year's state runner-up. Doug, you got a really good sense of the way that they play football. They line up in that double wing T, and their offensive line has assignments. They execute those assignments, and they make life very, very difficult for opposing defenses. And Palmer Ridge is no slouch when it comes to being able to power run the football. They're big up front. Montrose has that advantage of, kind of a three-headed rushing attack between Elijah Womack, Chase Meehan, and, of course, their quarterback, Cade Saunders, who was thrust into the playoff picture last year when Chris Mock got hurt. He's been at the helm all year now. So, Cade's very comfortable. That trio's been just darn near unstoppable. The quarterfinal win over Monarch. I talked to Coach Brett Mertens after the game. It was a one-score game. So I think it was like 28-20 or something like that. Montrose scored 3 touchdowns in between Monarch possessions. So they scored, they got an onside kick, scored again, went into halftime, got the kick to start the second half, scored again, game over. And that is the kind of weapons that's the kind of way that Montrose plays football, and it works very, very well for them. Palmer Ridge can throw it when they need.
I think this game is going to last about 30 minutes, like real time. I mean, this is just a grind it out, run the football. And I think if it lasts any longer than that, it plays into Palmer Ridge's hands. But I definitely feel like Montrose is the more experienced team. They're more committed to the running game. And that's not to say that's just not what Palmer Ridge is necessarily. I mean, they've got a capable quarterback and capable receivers. But I do think that Montrose also comes into this game with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because they lost and the way they lost to Broomfield last year in the state championship. I think that's a team on a mission, and I think you'll see that on Saturday.
Well, you know what you do with chips, right? You eat chips, right? If you come in the game with a chip on your shoulder, as soon as someone knocks it off, now you have to play football. And I agree, Doug, but this is what I witnessed and watched on a replay. Palmer Ridge is serious. I'm not trying to look past what they did to Broomfield. I mean, they took Broomfield out to the woodshed. I mean, and that's not an easy task. I mean, they have running backs, they have a great back, they have a great team. And you just mentioned what they did last year too, Montrose. And we had Coach on the show earlier this year, and they're just putting things together. So I believe Palmer Ridge is a lot better than what they've shown. I believe the running game is very, very exciting to watch. But the difference will be big plays, right? Big plays in the running game, and because the play clock will go and the game clock will run. But who's going to make the big plays? You can have the biggest running backs that you want to. I've always all the coaches I ever had always made a joke about big teams. They would say there's no bench on the sideline, right? There's no cleaning bar on the sideline. There's just explosive players who make explosive plays. So when it comes down to it in this game, when it's time for those big running backs and players to make plays, who makes the plays, right? Regardless of the size they are, versus this is going to be a fast game, and you won't have a lot of time to control that, time of possession versus the opportunity to execute. So Montrose, once again, Western Slope team, right? Sitting up there, a very unique area. And Palmer Ridge is looking to continue that steam that they had last week, because what you're always going to have when you beat a big, state championship team, you're going to have some wind behind you going into the next round. And I think that's what's important in this game is them keeping that up and, keeping that wind going behind them and run that ball to make big plays, not to try to dominate, but try to win games, making some big plays. And less time on the field is always best in semi-final games.
I'll tell you what, I've seen this Montrose team a few times in the last couple of years, and the one thing I will say is they execute their stuff, and Mertens always says he doesn't have the kids that a Palmer Ridge would have to where he can't really run a spread offense. They can't throw the ball and come up with all these creative route trees because they're just not going to have those type of kids. So they come up with a system where it's reliant on, can your offensive linemen execute the assignment that they're given, and can their running backs take advantage? Elijah Womack is a serious back, guys. I was talking with Ponderosa coach Jaron Cohen earlier today. I mean, that was one of the first things he said. Ponderosa lost to 3 of the 4 teams remaining, and the one they didn't face is Montrose. And Cohen didn't say this, but you get the feeling that he's like, thank God, because if that was the case, Womack may have hurt one of our guys. The guy's a genuine dude. And I think that can be a difference maker on the field. So, Dougie, I heard you pick Heritage in the first one. Jermaine, I couldn't tell if you were offering up your pick or you were picking Dakota Ridge. Sorry, Jermaine, I don't know if you offered that out or not. But what do we like for winners of the 4A games?
Go ahead, Doug. I'll steal your answers this time.
Well, I'm going to take Dakota Ridge, as you said. I just think they've stood out all season long, and they had a convincing win to get to this round. So I'm sticking with them. And then this next game, it should be a great one because both teams have, big physical styles. I think Palmer Ridge actually probably has a better top to bottom roster, but Montrose is that team to me that just has something to prove. And I think they also kind of represent that, that sort of Air Force Falcons phenomenon when teams are not used to seeing that, like that attack, that style that's just relentless with the wing backs and all the trickery that goes on inside the line. I think that's a tough assignment for any team if you're not used to playing with that. So I'm going to go with Montrose in the second game as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely going with DR. I think the running game will control that game. And I'm going to go with the sleeper. And I call him a sleeper because obviously there was a sleeper last week. right? And I think they continue on. I'm going to go with PR. I think they will come in that game and take on those couple blows from, the size of the chin that never been touched before with that type of offense that Montrose brings. And I think they can wear down. I think they can wear down Montrose with the type of offense that they're going to bring to the board. And I think that's going to control the line of scrimmage more, have less opportunities for the time of possession for Montrose. And I think they pull out a very close win.
I'm going to go Dakota Ridge. I think the Eagles get it done, and then I'm with Doug. I think it's Montrose. I think if you get that ball rolling, you get Womack. You get Womack running free. You switch it up with Chase Meehan, who also plays great defensively. He's a big defensive asset. And then Kate Saunders, their quarterback, who's been able to throw for some touchdowns in some spots that you wouldn't think. Montrose does not like to throw the ball, but Cade has thrown himself very capable. So I think Montrose gets back to the state championship game, and they'll take on Dakota Ridge. As we shift into the 3A semifinals, Doug, you were the only one to pick Pueblo South in the Colorado Prep staff picks. I think the Colts actually went up early, and then Windsor just took over the game. And this is the first playoff meeting between Windsor and Holy Family since 2011. Windsor won that game 41-14. It was actually also the last time these two teams played at all. Windsor won a state title in 2015, beating Loveland 35-14 in the 4A game. Holy Family is 2 years removed from their last state title, beating Lutheran 33-8 in the 3A title game. For the Wizards, and guys, I hated having to write this because I'm not a broadcaster by nature, but Adrian Sizison, I have no idea how to say his last name.
Sounds good to me. We'll go with it.
Apologies, Eric Johnson, but he leads the Wizards with 118 rushing yards per game. Holy Family can throw the ball a little bit. Caden Hopkins threw for 363 yards and 3 touchdowns in last weekend's win over Meade. So what do we make of this showdown? Doug, I'm going to throw it to you first.
Well, I was impressed with Windsor because I really did believe that Pueblo South was the team that was going to win that game. So Windsor's got a little something going there for sure, and they've definitely got the momentum given the fact that they did beat Pueblo South. But I tend to like Holy Family in this game. I appreciate the history. The last time they met in 2011. But in high school football, I think unless that history runs deep, as in a rivalry that happens year in, year out, I don't think the history matters much in this. I think Holy Family is that team that's just electric. Jermaine talked about big plays in the previous classification and big plays determining games. I just think that Holy Family has that big play capability, big strike capability. Caden Hopkins throwing for 363 yards a game. That's a lot. That's a lot of yards in high school football. So obviously they're used to making big plays. And that's why I think I give Holy Family the edge in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go Holy Family as well. I just love teams that can throw for 300 yards in a playoff game. I think when you can do that, I mean, that puts you on another level when it comes to, being stopped. Obviously, what is stopped when I can put up 300? Am I going to pass for 200? 200 passing per game will win games for you. So Holy Family, I believe, is going to come in there. I truly believe what you're saying there, Doug, as well. Those rivalries when it comes to football, kids are playing football. They're not thinking about, hey, we lost to them. This is not Michigan State going to Iowa for 18 straight years. And not 18 years, out of 18 years, can't win in Iowa, right? Because of the pink locker rooms. It's not one of those situations. This is truly a game for Holy Family to take hold of and for them to move on.
3A has been the hardest classification for us to accurately judge because we had these wild games every week. But the one constant has been Windsor. They haven't played a soft schedule, and they've come away with wins each and every week. I think they beat Meade, they beat Roosevelt, all these teams that have just been tough all season long. And the fact that they control the ball by running it. I think that's always what I look for in terms of playoff teams. Whoever's the better running team to me always has an edge. I talked to Windsor athletic director Eric Johnson during state volleyball. He really likes where the football team is at. I talked to our friend John Yunt, who does all the media for Holy Family. He said he's not sure that that the Wizards have seen a team that can throw the ball like Holy Family. So there is that piece of it. But ultimately, if we're just going to do our picks game by game, I think Windsor walks away with this one. So I'll be the lone guy to go in that one. We now head to Palisade Pomona, 2 versus 3. So another very solid semifinal game on tap. And shame on us for doubting a Joe Ramuno team. The Bulldogs lost in the first round of the playoffs last year, but now they have a chance to get back to their first state title game since 2003. And guys, I think we all picked Roosevelt. I think everyone across the board had Roosevelt winning that game. I liked a lot of what Coach Wassinger had to say to us a couple weeks ago. And Palisade barely escaped Timoth in week 1 or in the first round of the playoffs. So I think we all thought that Roosevelt was primed for an upset. It was Palisade getting a 21-14 win. The team rushed for 174 yards, but their leading rusher was Dylan Larson, who had 38. And that's what you're going to see in that Joe Ramuno triple offense, guys. So like Montrose, I feel like that kind of offense can lead to a state championship berth. But Pomona's no slouch. What do we think?
I'm going Pomona. Them knocking out my Lutheran team last week. I'd say Lutheran put up a great fight, but that was a tough team that they were going against. And as you can look at this picture, I mean, these are grown men. Like, they have beards. I mean, let's be realistic about this. The facial hair is running hard on that Pomona team. What is going on over there up north? But I'd say you jump into, I don't know where they're playing. I think they'll be the NAC, maybe possibly playing there for this game, but it's going to be tough, for that team walking in. I think you have Pomona getting to a level where they are now, from coming down from 5 to 3. I could see them going there, understanding, they have a little bit more motivation and perspective, right? What it could do for their program with getting those wins up there in that area of the playoffs. So I'm picking Pomona.
Well, this game, confuses me a little because, like you said, Dan, we all picked Roosevelt. I thought that their big physical style play was going to carry through, and Palisade came in and won. And I think that says something, just as it's fair to say, hey, we don't know much about the Durangos or the Grand Junctions of the world. Palisade's the same thing, but obviously in this case, we might have, discounted them a little bit. So I like Palisade, but, right or wrong, I can't get the fact that Pomona has been a 5A and a 4A team for the majority of my life. And I just look at them and I think, man, that's a team that should win this class. And they've been the class of this class pretty much all year. So, I think Palisade's run comes to an end here because I think Pomona is just that good.
Yeah, I'm with you. At the end of every game, they send out a tweet, they send out an Instagram post making sure to tag us so we can see it. And Coach Nathan Johnson, who's been on our program before, been so gracious with his time, always says, train don't stop. And I don't think this train stops this weekend for Pomona. I think they move on to the state title game, and I think they take on Windsor. So that's it for the semifinal slate. Because the rest of the way, guys, we've got state championship games. I'm excited to talk about what we're going to see at CSU Pueblo this weekend. We'll be breaking down some of those games and making our picks right after this.
This is Tim Anderson of Gordon Insurance, and we are proud to support all of our area athletes. With offices in Lyman, Callahan, Flagler, Sterling, and Kit Carson, we offer all types of insurance, including home, auto, commercial, farm, crop, life, bonds, and workman's compensation. We are independent and thus can offer you multiple choices of companies, not just one. Call or visit the office near you, and one of our agents can take care of you. See all of our contact information by going to www.gordonins.com or call me at 719-740-1361.
Raising Cane's invites you to grab life by the chicken fingers. So get out there. Be you. Do you. Embrace whatever makes you, you. All while enjoying Raising Cane's hand-battered cooked-to-order chicken fingers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, buttery Texas toast, and that secret recipe cane sauce that makes everything that much better. So go on. Savor the day.
Raising Cane's chicken fingers. One love.
There are those who say the modern world has made us lose touch with places like this. We say, that depends on what you're driving.
Welcome back into the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing. I'm the editor-in-chief of Colorado Prep's Dan Mohrmann. Doug Ottewill, the editor-in-chief of Mile High Sports Magazine with me. Jermiane Stafford from Upswing with me. Guys, we've gotten through the big classifications, but it's title time. It's championship weekend, the first of two. I've been in Pueblo all day, as you can see behind me, CSUP Thunderbolt Stadium. We've got some athletes doing some track work. It looks miserable. It looks terrible. But this place will be packed over the weekend as we get going with the state championship games. Of course, 6-man and 8-man will be on Friday, 1A and 2A on Saturday. We will have pregame, in-between game, post-game coverage of the 1A and 2A games Saturday as part of the Road to State presented by Raising Cane's. Our friend Ashley Giovanna will be on the desk hosting. Doug and I may kind of kick in back and forth while taking care of other responsibilities, but really, really exciting deal we've got planned for Saturday. And guys, we're just going to go from top down. We're going to start with the 2A championship game between Elizabeth and Wellington. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I don't want to say this is going to be a letdown game, but Wellington took care of the business they wanted to take care of since about this time last year. They beat TCA. They feel like they got the revenge they needed for the missed fumble call in last year's 2A state championship game. And now they're back here in Pueblo. This could be the first football state championship for them since 1953 as they take on Elizabeth. Is it crazy to think that maybe them pressing through the semifinal weekends and putting so much emphasis on that TCA win? I don't want to ask if they're in trouble, but do they need to get refocused, Jermaine?
No, I think they have great leadership there. That coaching staff, I don't believe they hyped it as much as we did on our side about what happened last year, right? If I know anything about a coaching staff like that, who have successful wins, they weren't pressing that. It wasn't. I won't say there wasn't one word, but I couldn't see a coaching staff bringing it up and saying, "Let's go through this," because I could hear the narrative being, "Take care of business. Let's control the narrative and win the game with us on the field. Allow the 11 players on the field to win the game every possession." I can see that. So I don't feel like it'd be a letdown. It's just very simple when you start talking about a title, right? This is the opportunity to win. There's no more conversations that's needed other than that. So I don't feel like it's a letdown. And I could truly see those players understanding that as well. If they had to put those demons to the side, they packed it up, it's over. Now let's move on to the next week. And a state championship game is not where you want to be holding emotions about something last year versus let's go create some moments for ourselves this year.
Yeah, Dan, I think, of all the people to suggest that Wellington might be having a letdown game, you surprise me. You've been on the Wellington hype train all season long, and
I'll get to it.
For you. They've come through for you. But I do think, like Jermaine said, I don't think high school kids necessarily carry over these things in a semifinal game. I think the goal for every team in the state is to win state. So, yeah, it's a nice win, and maybe it settles a little bit of a score. But it's also a bunch of different kids playing against a bunch of other different kids that weren't part of that experience. Yes, there's some that were the same, but I think the state title is always the goal. So I don't think there's a letdown by any means from Wellington. You have a kid like Tanner Gray that throws, for 116 yards and also rushes for 112. You got a superstar. So that's going to be a lot for Elizabeth to contend with. On the other side of the ball, I think, Elizabeth taking down a team that thumped Strasburg, that's a case for either some inaccurate seedings or a team that's really darn good. And you look at what Elizabeth did. They had a ground attack that produced more than 300 yards in a game. Again, that's a recipe for success in the postseason. So this is a tight game. This is a tough one to call. I am really on the fence here, but I'm going to go with what Dan Mohrmann's told me all season long, and that's Wellington will stand out on top when it's all said and done.
Okay, so we'll get to that in a second. The first thing I'm going to tell you is they absolutely have been thinking about that TCA game since last year's state championship game, and I know that because they told me. I talked to Tanner Gray today at the press luncheon. First off, what I like is CSU Pueblo Football Foundation President Todd Kelly is standing next to me as Tanner walks by into the lunch buffet line, big Italian spread. Says, "Man, what is that? A left tackle? That's their quarterback, TK." And his eyes nearly popped out of his head. I mean, Tanner is massive. He's a kid that I've said it all year. I'd rather get a root canal than try and tackle that guy. And I asked him point blank, like, how'd you guys feel after last weekend? And he's like, man, we've been thinking about that for a year. We've been thinking about that game for a year. That being said, Travis Peoples and Jermaine, you alluded to this. That guy knows what to do in this exact situation, right? They did what they wanted to do. They got the win that they needed to get in more ways than one, right? It's a win to get them to the state championship game. And it's a win that, kind of gave them some closure over what happened a year ago. They're refocused. And that happened from the second the clock said 0 on Saturday. They know what a state championship would mean to these kids that were there last year. They know what it would mean to the school that's just recently reopened. It's only been there for 4 years. And they know what it would mean to the community of Wellington. And so with all of that in mind, they're not nervous. They're not afraid. They're ready to go in and do a job. That being said, Elizabeth is coming off really a couple of huge confidence boosts. Brush hadn't lost a football game, and they beat Brush in the quarterfinals. And then they turn around and they beat Eaton, who topped number 1 Strasburg, and an Eaton program that is no stranger to winning state championships. So that Elizabeth team is coming in with a lot of confidence. I talked to Griffin Whitholm. He ran for 125 yards and 3 touchdowns in the win over Eaton. I talked to him today, and he kind of said the same thing, like, this is going to be a tough game, but we have every reason to believe that we can win because of the work that we've done and the results that we've had. So of the 3 games, or of the 4 games this weekend, either this one or the next one we're going to talk about is probably going to be the most competitive in my mind. And if you were going to force me to pick, why would I come off that train now, Doug? I'm with you. I would go Wellington. Jermaine, I think you're the only one that we need a pick from.
Yeah, you made your point about Wellington. There's a difference between thinking about it. They are human. We are human. You go to Starbucks, they make you drink wrong, right? You're never going to forget that. But that's not going to be a narrative where you don't go to the next Starbucks and not think about just getting a cup of coffee. There's a difference.
That's a great analogy.
Right? It's like you just think about it. You're thinking about it, but they weren't using that as a narrative to win the next game, right? It's not all they use as a narrative, but I'm going to go, no fumbles aside. Hopefully I can say that joke now since they took care of business. No fumbles aside. I'm going to go with Elizabeth. I think Elizabeth understands what happened last year. I think that the coach understands. And on that side, they possibly could be using that as a narrative to say, hey, let's control business. Let's not give them an excuse why we beat them, right? Let's go into this game and we take the ball from them. Don't allow them to fumble the ball and say no one beat them. I've been a coach for a long time, and that would be my narrative to those guys, right? To run out of that locker room, fire it up. Let's go beat them with no turnovers and make sure they know that we're the state champs. So I'm picking Elizabeth.
I love it. The 1A game, Buena Vista versus Lyman, a rematch of a game that happened earlier this year. Doug, Mike O'Dwyer is not mad. He's just disappointed that you didn't make it to either Pueblo or Lyman over the weekend.
Kind of worse, you hate to disappoint someone as much, you're a kid. You don't want to you'd rather your parents be mad at you than them be disappointed.
That's right. Buena Vista won the game 13-10. It came down to a late play, late touchdown pass, I believe, from Hudson Wingo. Talked to him today. I mean, they're kind of going in again with confidence. Confidence is a key thing to have this time of year. Both teams had to beat teams they beat in the regular season to advance the title game. I was out in Lyman as they beat Ray over the weekend. Buena Vista had to beat Centauri. both teams have won state championships in the last 10 years. Lyman has just won quite a few more, 5 out of the last 7. But what do we like here? Lyman is healthy. They got beat up in that last game against Buena Vista. They are healthy coming into this one, and they are really, really anxious to bring Title 23 back to Titletown, Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, I think health does play a factor. I mean, in that first game when they matched up, they played 3 quarterbacks in one game because they had guys going out. And I was reminded this morning, I was talking to Tim Anderson, who was on the NFHS call this past weekend. Lyman was up 10-0 for the majority of that game and ended up losing kind of late in the fourth quarter. I look at this game. I mean, this is the one that we've all been talking about. We've all been, it's been a collision course to these two teams to this exact spot. So it's the game we wanted to see. I'm just not so sure that a team like Lyman loses twice to the same team in a season, especially given, they kind of have the same thing that you were talking about with Wellington. They've probably been looking forward to this rematch all season long. I also think that it's a neutral field. The first game took place at Buena Vista. And I do think in this instance, tradition does play a factor. Lyman goes into these games believing they're going to win. They don't believe they're going to lose ever. And I think that does play into this. I mean, like you said, both teams have won state titles, but there's a lot of kids on this Lyman team that have one of their own as sophomores. So, I look at this as one of the games that I've just been looking forward to watching all season long. But I also think Lyman has the edge. The Badgers come away with this one with the win and another state title.
Jermaine, before you go, Mike O'Dwyer, the first thing he said to me today, he walked in, he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Jermaine at Upswing." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Was he on the money or what?" And then he walked away from me, didn't say another word. You called it last week. It was one of your bold moves. 400 yards rushing. And Dougie, I'm not kidding you. It was to a T, 400 yards. It was 400 yards on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would not give all the glory to myself there. I would have to say I give that to Doug. Doug wasn't present, so I had to speak for you, Doug. I know your Lyman love. So, but I understood this part. If they have to, and they will have to, put that ball in the air a couple of times, there was no way that coach was going to show that last week if he didn't have to. And he would run that ball and get ready to be able to run that ball in that state championship. So that 400 yards, is amazing. Think about that. I don't care what level of football you're playing. It could be powder puff, flag football, any 6-man, 8-man, 2-man football. You run for 400 yards. That is very dominant. And I think that coach is making a point, not to anyone outside of his own realm. He was doing it within his locker room. I truly believe, as a former coach, that we are dominant and we're going to go in and dominate this game and move on. But we're going to do it the right way because we're going to execute. And what he was looking to see, and I'm sure he's seen a couple of things he could fix, but what he was seeing, what he was able to witness with guys who were taking care of the business and doing what they needed to rush for that 400 yards. And think about the stamina and where they are. Him also testing a gauge of their conditioning level at that point. I mean, hats off. Hats off to obviously the young men who ran that 400 yards, but I give all the glory to those guys up front, right? And they don't mind us calling them this. Is not derogatory in any way, but those hogs up front, they were taking care of business, right? That's what they like to be called, and that's what they do. And they were making sure those pits stayed dirty, and they making sure it was hard to get through there as a defense. And they did it rushing for 400 yards. And unfortunately, the other side of the ball, that's not something you want to ever have to happen to you, is giving up 400 yards of rushing. But I think Lyman goes ahead and puts down another couple hundred yards. And I'm not going to say 4 again. I'm going to live on my one guess. But I think they go out there and they push it. And I see Lyman, like Doug alluded to, beating someone twice as a team like this. This is like beating Alabama twice in the same season, right? When they're rolling. It's very, very hard to do. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm picking Lyman. I think they're going to take it home.
Doug sent me a text message during the game to ask, hey, how big is Keegan Mellett? That he's I think he's a guard, either left guard, right guard for the Lyman offensive line, number 55. And the only thing I could respond with is yes. The guy is massive. And he was down.
The Mellott bloodline in Eastern Colorado runs deep, and they're large people. They're very large people. And you could see it all game long. I mean, they just left side of that line, man, they just crush people and just run off of them all day long.
The players that were getting in line for the Italian buffet lunch were making sure they were getting in ahead of him before before he was able to get to all that pasta and lasagna. I'm with you guys. I have a lot.
I'm sorry. Bloodlines run real. I'm serious. They run real. I have a bloodline. I could tell you all the Staffords in my family were all fast. And I'm not joking, not gloating. I'm not pumping the chest. But I mean, all the way back to, my great grandfather, we were sprinters. They were all fast. They ran fast. And so it's true. And it's big in those small towns, I'm sure. I come from a long line of mediocre athletes, decent riders, but, mediocre athletes.
I'm with you, Dougie. I think, and Jermaine, I think Lyman gets this done. It's going to be really, really hard to catch Mike O'Dwyer off guard twice. I think in terms of making sure his teams are ready, Mike might be the best coach in the state at that. So I think the Badgers get title 23 and continue to be the most dominant football program in Colorado history, regardless of classification. So in 8-man, we have a league rematch between Akron and Haxton. This is the fourth time that these teams have played each other in the last 2 years, once in the regular season and once for the state championship. Haxton won last year's state title game 46-20. Rylan Wolf was just incredible in that one. I was down here watching that display. Akron won the regular season game 28-24. Colton Randall leads the Rams, offense. He's thrown for 1,700 yards, 22 touchdowns. He's just thrown 4 interceptions. Also rushed the ball for 601 yards. And Akron as a whole was rushed for over almost 2,000 yards. And Haxton's no slouch on the rushing front, guys. 3,600 yards on the ground. Zach Stats and Colin Cohen have combined for over 2,200 of those. So we're going to see some running in that 8-man state championship game.
Yeah, I can't speak to. I haven't seen either team. I will be the first to raise my hand. If you can give me a press pass, I would love to come down and join you there, Dan. And I'd like to be, field side or in the stands. So I can go in the 300.
Let's do it.
I can be in the 300 level seats, but I would love to come down and see those guys square off.
Yeah, let's do it. It's going to be fun. I'll tell you that much.
I think the first matchup in this series this year is, it makes this game even more exciting. I mean, only 4 points separated them. And it's two different styles. I mean, Akron seems to be a little bit more of a balanced team. The thing that I really like and the stat that really jumps off the page is that Randall threw 4 interceptions. I mean, that's not many at all for a kid who threw for 1,741 yards. I mean, that they're throwing the ball, and it's not like it's a, every once in a while on third down kind of an offense. That's a pretty balanced attack. But then again, you've got Haxton, who both historically and this season, they're a ground and pound team, 3,600 yards on the ground and 59 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's just how they do it. So, this is a game that has a lot of intrigue, especially because they played already and it was a bloodbath. So, this is as tough a game to call on the slate. I'm going to go with the same trend that we went with for the 1A game, and I'm going to pick Haxton because I think that it's tough to beat a team twice. And even though Akron got the edge in game 1, I think Haxton comes out, controls the clock, and wins this game.
Well, and don't forget that, we've had J.D. Stone on the program. He's a very sharp football mind, especially at the 8-man level. And I think almost in the O'Dwyer sense, it's going to be tough to catch a guy like that off guard twice. And he's a guy who can learn from his mistakes. Talk to JD a little bit today. He's excited about the matchup. This is a friendly rivalry, right? They're teams that they want to win league titles. They want to beat each other. But at the end of the day, they're all going to shake hands, hug, and do everything. But I think this is a game. There's no friendly rivalries. Is that what you said?
No, you're a rival or not.
I saw a big hug from Levi Kramer and Mike O'Dwyer over the weekend. So we're going to agree to disagree on that one. But no, I think we're in for one heck of an 8-man championship game. I think just because I've seen them a little bit this year, Akron's got the dudes. They've got the dudes to pull off the win and get their first state championship in a while. So give me the Rams.
Clock that.
So you like that?
I said clock that.
Clock that. Jermaine, any pick from you? You haven't seen either team. It's okay. It's okay.
I'll take both of you guys' pick. Whatever pick you had, I go. Doug, who did you have?
I took Haxton, and Dan took Akron, so that presents a problem.
No, I'm with you, Doug. I'm with you, Doug. I can't go with Dan. Dan's been picking wrong all year. I can't go with you. I'm gonna go with you, Doug. I go with your pick. I take Haxton.
All right, and we'll finish today's show off with what will be the first championship game on Friday. Idalia takes on Stratton. Only the second playoff meeting between these two teams. I had to go back through the Colorado Preps playoff database, through the Max Preps era. In the Max Preps era, they've only played each other 6 total times. So Drew Fox is the guy to go to for Stratton. 32 rushing touchdowns this weekend. Gabe Hector. I said that wrong. I butchered it. I asked their coach for pronunciation. I just messed it up. So the coach's son he's just been a wrecking ball. 1,900 yards, 39 touchdowns. But guys, 48 points was the margin of victory for Idalia in the regular season. And that's a lot to make up, even for a state championship game.
Yeah, and I think, obviously the tradition is there at Stratton, so I'd never count them out. But, the thing that impressed me about Idalia wasn't their margin of victory over the course of the season or the fact that they put up 52 points against the number 4 Pete's team. They shut them out. And to me, a 6-man defense that can shut anyone out, even one of the worst teams in the state, is a minor miracle. The game is so wide open. Anything can happen on any given play. You get one fast kid and there's a touchdown. And the fact that Idalia pitched a shutout in the state semifinals, that tells me a lot about that defense. They got to be disciplined. They got to be fast. They got to be physical. And in a 6-man game, if you have that advantage on defense, I think you got a lot, because everybody can score in 6-man. And the fact that they pitched a shutout in the state semifinal is a reason for me to pick Idalia.
Yeah, I will pick here, and I'm excited to see. This is like 7-on-7, right? I mean, no disrespect to that game, but if
they had another guy, it'd be 7-on-7.
Exactly. They have 6, and it would be 7. No pun intended. But where I want to go with this is truly an understanding that anyone can score at any time, like you're saying, Doug. So when you look at a game like that, regardless of what the previous was and the makeup has to be in that game, this is this game. They start out 0-0, and watching this team and how they score sporadically throughout the year, I'm going to go with Stratton. I think they could pick it up and come back. And you talk about those chips on the shoulders and understand like what they have to do to execute and make up that difference with it starting 0-0. So they don't have to make it up in this particular game. So I'm going to go with Stratton.
The one thing that Stratton certainly has, and some of the players on this team will certainly have it, is experience of playing in the state championship in Puebla. And that you can't discount that. Margin of victory was big for Idalia in the regular season. I still think the Wolves get it done. I lean Idalia in this one. And that might be a little bit of a preference, maybe just from the standpoint of, for the last 4 years, it's either been Cheyenne Wells or Stratton winning the state title. I think you'd have to go back to Fleming to find a team who's not one of those teams who walked away with that title. So I like the idea of injecting something new into the mix. Idalia has a win over Stratton already this season, so I'm going to roll with Idalia there. You can catch all the action, of course. We're going to talk more football tomorrow at Raising Cane's Road to State. 3609 Wadsworth Boulevard in Wheat Ridge. Jermaine, you are more than welcome to come by. At that point, we'll see what we can do about getting you a credential. And if you want to roll down to Pueblo and hang this weekend, we can always use the work.
Hey, if you come Tuesday night, we'll see what we can do about having Dan buy you some chicken too. I mean, he does that.
You keep saying that, Doug. Thank you for complimenting my diet because yes, I am down 31 pounds. I like what you got. You like to make jokes about I need a dinner plan. So yeah, maybe I can come down to Raising Cane's and eat some fries. How about that? I won't go.
I wouldn't go too crazy with that. You could double up on the Texas toast too, or you could just get all chicken, and Dan will pick up the tab no matter what.
I have to keep his number up for that. You're going to be in Pueblo, so we definitely got a good shout out. It was this weekend I was speaking to an old Pueblo East coach, and it was amazing how he talked about he listens to our show. And I don't know if you guys remember.
Hang on, which one? Which Pueblo East coach?
The coach at Pueblo East. His son was.
Yeah. Coach Andrada, Paul Andrada.
Yeah,
Paul's my guy.
Yeah, Paul and I go way back where I used to host a youth football tournament called Release the Beast at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. And he bought his Pueblo Gators. He bought them up, and they were tough, right? It was the only team from not in this Denver area that were playing in a tournament. And let's just say they left with a trophy, and they left having everybody shaking their heads about those kids down in Pueblo can actually play. And we had some good conversations, some good fellowship. And over the years, obviously, his Pueblo East team put up some state championships. His son did well. And, his nephew, is now with the Commanders. So Kane is with the Commanders now. So history.
I'll tell you what, Kane Medrano was one of my favorite athletes to watch when that kid was playing. Because not only was he playing football, he was a heck of a basketball player. And you got that kid on the track, and he was turning heads.
Yeah, so dominant in turning that disc as well. He was a sprinter and throwing a discus, which is very, very different. But yes, I'm excited for this weekend. Over here at Upswing, we're excited about the month of December being Colorado Gives Day coming up soon. This is a great opportunity nationwide where nonprofits are asking for the support to do what we do with young youth. You'll see it across the networks and due to all the social media. We are a part of Colorado Gives Day. You can go to our website at upswingfoundation.org and you can see how you can support us. There's multiple ways you can spread the word as well. Every dollar goes to every young man and woman that comes in this facility. So it's a huge day for us coming up in the first week of December.
All right. And we still have one more week in November to go, and that means enjoy your Thanksgiving on Thursday, guys. That first and foremost, right? Eat your turkey, eat your stuffing, cranberries, all the deal, because Friday night we've got championship football in Pueblo. Saturday we have more championship football in Pueblo, followed by semifinals in 5A, 4A, 3A. We'll have so much of that covered on coloradopreps.com. We'll be talking it on the Road to State this week, the Road to State next week, the Colorado Prep Show next week. And then, of course, we'll be live in Fort Collins for state championship Saturday, just like we'll be live in Pueblo this Saturday for state championship. So for Doug Ottewill, for Jermiane Stafford, for Danny Bailey, the guy who makes us look and sound so much better than we are, can't wait for what the week has in store. This is the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing. We'll see you next week.